What is going on, everybody in Max Squad? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be doing the first impressions of the Moto G Power. Stay tuned. I can say for it right now is that it is definitely worth the upgrade to the Moto G7 Power from last year as far as the US versions. Now with the Moto G7 Power from last year, we had 3 gigs of RAM and we had 32 gigs of internal storage with a Snapdragon 632 inside. Now this year with the Moto G Power, we have an upgrade. We have the Snapdragon 665, we have 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of internal storage. So if you thought that that was an upgrade, there are other things that are upgrade as well. With the camera system, as you can see, we went from 1 camera last year to 3 cameras this year. We have a 16 megapixel primary lens. Now it's a wide angle camera. You also have an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera. Now the difference between the 16 megapixel and the 8 megapixel is obviously a quality difference. The ultra wide is not going to be as smooth, it's not going to be as crisp as the 16 megapixel wide camera, but you also get a 2 megapixel camera on the rear. That's a macro lens or micro, however you want to say it, who cares. You can take photos extremely close to a subject and you will still have pretty good detail. Now the cool thing about that third lens in the back, for the macro lens there, is that you can do it in video mode and you can take pictures with it. So definitely an upgrade in the camera systems as far as the rear. Now on the front, you get a 16 megapixel camera in the front, and that's an upgrade from last year as well. Now with the camera on the front, the selfie camera, that's a 16 megapixel sensor that can actually take pictures of you and compress them down to 4 megapixels, and it makes the image seem a little bit more high quality. I like it as opposed to using a regular 16 megapixel camera mode, so shout out to Moto for that. The cameras on the front and back of the Moto G Power are definitely an improvement from last year. You get an improvement in the internal specs. Definitely worth every single dollar. Last year on the Moto G7 Power, you have a 720p display. This year you have a full HD display on the Moto G Power. You also still have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. So all those things I mentioned before, you get that, and you still get that big battery. Motorola, in my opinion, did a good job of improving the G Power from last year, and it's probably strictly because the budget market is getting extremely competitive, and they had to do something. They had to be some type of upgrade from last year to this year for people to actually go out and get this phone. The budget market is becoming extremely competitive, of course, with the new iPhone SE for 2020 coming out, and then you're gonna be having the Pixel 4a coming out pretty soon as well. So the budget market is full of competition, and the G Power, if you ask me, is definitely a viable option. Now with this full HD display, you do now have what is known as a hole punch display, or Infinity O from Samsung, however you wanna call it, or whatever you wanna call it. It houses the camera, and you can see in the B-roll there, it looks pretty modern. I actually like the design of it. I'm not too upset about it at all. You know, some people may complain about the top and bottom bezels. I'm not really a person that complains about that, but when they are huge, I do understand. But in this case here, it's not that much of a big deal. Now, another upgrade with this device from last year is that the G7 Power had a single firing speaker on the front. Now this year, we have a bottom firing speaker and a top firing speaker, so you have dual speakers, stereo sound for the G Power of this year here. So definitely positive upgrades from last year. This is a lot to the point where it's hard not to say to go upgrade. It's really hard to say not to. The device does come shipped with Android 10, and I'm not sure if we're gonna get an upgrade to Android 11 when it comes out, but you know, we'll hope. Now to get into detail with the camera system on the back here, like I said, it is a triple camera setup. You also get the option of shooting in 4K and 1080p 60 frames per second, all that good stuff. You can shoot in a variety of different video modes. 4K 60 is not an option. This is a budget phone still. That's more for like the premium phones. Video quality on this phone is actually really good. Audio quality comes out pretty good as well. This phone is really good, y'all. I'm not kidding you when I say this. This Moto G Power is really good. It's a huge upgrade from last year. You still get the headphone jack. You get USB Type-C for charging. You do have turbocharge, so you can charge this device up really fast. And you still get that incredible battery life. So last year, I was huge on the fact that the G7 Power had amazing battery life, but this year, the same thing is still present in this device here. Now, originally I was gonna get the Moto G stylus as opposed to getting the Moto G Power, but I ended up getting the G Power because my local Best Buy, as far as the one that was closest to me, where I was willing to ride to, that Best Buy did not have any of the G stylus in stock. So I ended up getting the G Power, and I'm actually happy I got the G Power now because I can compare it directly to the device from last year. And I can definitely explain to my viewers here, as far as the G7 to the G8 Power for this year, why it's worth the upgrade. Selfies on this camera are really, really excellent. You can find yourself taking a lot of selfies just because you'll be surprised at how good the front-facing camera is on this device. It's just a lot going on for it. And at the price of $250 with the Snapdragon 665, it's a hell of a deal. Now, performance of it, the 665, you know, it's not like a 700 series processor. It's not an 800 series processor. It's like right before those two. And performance of it is really good. You'll be able to bounce in and out of app with no issues at all. Open up applications is a breeze. With Android 10, it's now like an adaptive power or performance mode where it can actually open up applications a little bit quicker based on your usage. So if you open up particular applications more than others, those applications will be held better in the background with the RAM. So I thought that was a cool feature. Shout out to Motorola for having some pretty good software here. Now, when I say having some pretty good software, what I mean is like they optimized the phone really well to make the performance of it seem a bit more fluid. They did an excellent job with this software here. I love the skin. Obviously it's stock Android, but they did a few minor touches here. And we can never forget what Motorola with the chop action and the twist action where we activate the camera. Now the device does have, of course, power buttons and volume up and down keys on the right side. Now the power button is rigid, so you will be able to tell the difference between the volume up and down keys and the power button. I always just like having a rigid power button because in the middle of the night or whatever you're doing, if you're not looking at your phone, you just want to be able to hit it and not have to think like you're hitting something else accidentally. You do also get a micro SD card slot for expandable storage. And with the device having 64 gigs of internal storage, it's not a ton of storage, of course, but for the average person, that's plenty. And you can always store your photos in the cloud if you run out. So having an SD card slot and 64 gigs along with 4 gigs of RAM, this phone is amazing, bro. I'm in love with the Moto G Power. Now battery life, as I said, is amazing. I was able to get about 6-7 hours of screen on time, and I had about 44% of battery left. And now it's like going into the second day. I had another instance where I got about 3.5 hours of screen on time, but about 60% of battery left, 66%. But you will see the B-roll of the screen on time, so you can see exactly what my numbers were. But really, really impressed with this Moto G Power here. The G7 Power of last year was probably about $250 on lock as well. And this one this year, the G Power this year, is $250 as well. Now, versus last year, we got 3 cameras to 1. Okay, we have dual speakers to a single firing speaker. We have a full HD display to a 720p display. We have a 16 megapixel camera to an 8 megapixel camera. We have a camera cutout display as opposed to a notch display. We still have a headphone jack. We still have quick charge. We still have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. What more do I need to tell you that the G Power is definitely worth the money as opposed to the G7 Power? It's at a point now where I'll say get the G Power as opposed to getting the G7 Power from last year. A substantial upgrade. Shout out to Motorola for doing this here. This phone is excellent. Performance is amazing. Battery life is still amazing. You get the upgraded features, speakers, screen, cameras. Amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. I can't say anything else about the G Power for 2020 here. So in the comment section below, do you agree with me? Do you think the Moto G Power from 2020 is worth the upgrade to the G7 Power of last year? I really think so. Let me know in the comment section below. But be sure to subscribe to the channel and also like this video because it does help the channel grow. But one thing I need for sure, please, is to share this video with your friends and family. Let them know that not all Android cameras suck. It is just not true. But until then, my name is Max Rock. Thank you for watching this video. Have a good day, y'all. Deuces.